Just checking to see if my audio is working okay here. If you could confirm, that would be great. Just double check. Oh, my goodies. Irina. It. Awesome. Welcome, gang. How y'all doing? It's been a minute. I did not get to broadcast at all this week on account of the new job. So that's been hectic, but super fun. I'm loving it so far. It's really, really great. Yeah, thanks. It's a totally different career path, weirdly. Even though it's art direction in a totally different medium than I've ever worked before at this level. So it's been a hell of a learning experience. Even in the first week, I've learned so much shit. So that is great. Downside is it's affecting the Twitch, so I'm going to have to figure something out for that. I'd like to keep the Saturday show going at least, bare minimum. But my week shows will have to be way later because I work, like 10 to 12 hours a day. Pretty regular. But we'll suss it out. We'll get there eventually. All right, I think what I was doing last time, so I can get to start painting before I get to chatting too much, is the background. You want to start streaming, you've been looking at getting a PC. You think you might want to get the Acer Predator. Is there a PC laptop I'd recommend for streaming? I can't say. I did have a MSI GT7 II that probably could have handled it, but I never used it for that because when I was using that laptop, the majority of the time I was out on the boat. That was my work horse, and I didn't have the internet to do streaming. But I think it could probably handle it. So any sort of solid, I'd say any gaming laptop that has an inboard GPU will probably handle it okay. There are workarounds. If you have a standard PC right now, you can get an external video card. I forget who makes them. What's the company's name? I did end up getting one, but I don't use it. Elgato, that's what it is. Elgato. It sounds like a company from Silicon Valley or something. But Elgato carries some external video cards. So what you can do is they're expensive. They're like a couple $100, I think. But that's way cheaper than buying a whole new rig. So you can get that, plug it in, and it's sort of a pass-through unit where you plug in your webcam and your screen intake and all that stuff, and then pump all of that through OBS, which is what I'm using, or whatever broadcasting software you use, and it will work. It's going to be about CPU, GPU, and RAM. Those are going to be the things that are taxed. Because when it's rendering, I mean, it's not just rendering your screen, right? It's like compressing everything and then streaming it out, which is a costly task. All right, let me copy this guy, I think. Well, let's merge him. Turn that down. Yes, I was working on some succulents that also kind of look like a tick infestation, which is fun. You're welcome, Irina, for that visual. I've seen it firsthand, though. It's not pretty. God, the first time I ever saw ticks, and I've already told you guys about my thing with parasites. I fucking despise parasites. They creep me the shit out. I don't have a lot of fears, phobias, but parasites, I'd say, probably equate to a real, actual phobia of mine. And there was this time, years ago, I believe this was pre-teens, maybe 12, I want to say. My my mom and my brother, we were out of home, shall I say, and we got taken in by this really kooky lady, and we lived in her garage, like in tents inside the garage, and she was a vet, and particularly a horse vet. Very strange woman, but I asked her if I could help out at the clinic, and I remember one of my very first jobs was somebody brought in a foundling, I think it was a chow puppy, and the thing was completely infested with ticks. Like, you couldn't see its face. It was so covered. It was really sad. And so I had to like sit there and pull these things off with this special remover. It was a nightmare. It was horrible. That was the one and only day that I worked in a vet clinic. Yeah, I think she was trying to prove a point. I don't know. She was a very weird lady, like I said. But yeah, the chow puppy did not make it. It died of the overwhelming blood loss of being completely covered by blood-sucking ticks, and it was a miserable day. I hated it. Also, living in that garage, it was a very brief time. I think we lived there for maybe 3 or 4 months in the garage. That was the first and only time I ever experienced, what's that called? When you wake up and you can't move. Do you know what I'm talking about? Sleep paralysis, that's what it is. I experienced sleep paralysis. I fell asleep, because we were out in the garage and it was on a concrete floor. So I had that and then a mat and then my sleeping bag inside of my tent. And I remember one morning I woke up and just could not move. It was so scary. My eyes were open. I was looking around. I started screaming. I couldn't move. And I was convinced that it was because I'd frozen, because the concrete floor is, when you sleep on concrete, this is something that you learn over time, sleeping on concrete, is you want to get as many barriers between you and the concrete as possible. I recommend cardboard. It's a great insulator. So I didn't know that at the time. I just had this mat, and I was always sleeping on that cold surface, and I thought that I had frozen, like my body had frozen, like that's where my sleepy brain went. It was not a pleasant experience. Yeah, that shit is scary. Sleep paralysis is really fucking scary. I could see how that would lead people to believe in witches and shit, because you believe anything in that first moment. You've never had sleep paralysis? Why does it happen? As I understand it, the theory is that when you have, what's happening is your conscious brain wakes up before the motor control brain does. So you have a switch in your brain that basically separates your brain from body in terms of choice and movement happening, like voluntary motion. And so when you're asleep and you dream and you don't run and move around in your dreams, your brain has already kind of like disconnected the relay that says, I want to do something, now body does something, right? Like I move my arm voluntarily, even though I'm not thinking about it, it's a voluntary action. So when you're in sleep state, your brain goes, nope, we're not going to have that. We're not going to smash into stuff or, punch the person you're sleeping next to. Supposedly. That's another story. Anyway, that disconnect happens. And on occasion, when you wake up, it doesn't connect right away. It takes a minute. And that just a couple of seconds of not having that connection is total nightmare fuel. It's really scary. Chris Annam, welcome. Sergio, welcome. Hola, ¿cómo estás? So yeah, random side story. Let's make a copy of it as it is for now. I always like to have a little backup. Great thing about this kind of puppet warp thing is, or just the warp tool in general, is that you can use assets almost endlessly. Let's make another copy. Let's grab this guy. He's going to be behind the previous one. I'm going to drop it behind because overlap is really important. We'll make this one tall. Maybe kind of lean. The cool thing is I mean, all of the ground is there. I basically kind of think of it as like an underpainting. Let's make another copy. This one's going to go in front of the one I just planted. And this one can be squat. Maybe very little of what I originally painted in these plants will stay, but like I said, just the heavy lifting is done. The design is there. You just want to make sure that you don't leave them all so similar. Like, values and colors will be major contributors to figuring stuff out. Todo bien, todo bien. Go up there. Just double checking my perspective. And then I think I had one that was going to go over here. And this one, actually we'll probably leave him squat and we'll just make him bigger. Now that I have groupings, aha, it begins. Let's get rid of you. Irina, are you still with me right now? Pop in. Okay. Hit me up on Discord after we're done with the show today. I had some ideas for you. Great. Let's make sure that all of this goes behind everything else. Great, enjoy your dinner, Sergio. Thanks for stopping in for a bit. Okay, so now we've kind of populated the background. Let's work on getting the values to feel correct. So these ones are kind of the distant ones. We have a lot of different ways to do this. We can, I think I'm gonna do a, oops. I'm gonna do a levels layer. And just affect that one. Like I said, I've done all the hard work of setting it up, so now I can just paint within those constraints. I think just getting the, oops, what happened here? Uh-oh, Photoshop's freaking out. Doesn't like it. Don't think this is a very big file, so I don't know why it's losing its shit. Gray Voices, welcome. Did they approach me for the gig? Yes. Yes, I was approached for that. Adelheid, welcome. Seems you're late again. Did I cover Joshua's question about illustration versus concept? Not yet. I will get to that shortly. I figured I'd pick it up when there's a lull in conversation. Yeah, no, I did not know about the gig I'm working on right now, the art direction gig. So it was a fun surprise. I got pinged. I actually got pinged in the fall about it, and then I didn't really expect anything to come from it, because that's something that happens. It's something you're gonna have to gird yourselves for, especially if you move into entertainment. It's not anybody's fault. It's just, this is how entertainment works. But you'll probably get approached, you know, as you progress through the ranks. You'll get approached for things, but I'd say like 80% of the time it doesn't pan out. So you learn to be kind of you learn to measure your excitement. You're going to get bit in the ass at least once. It's going to happen where somebody promises you the world and you're like, yes, and you'll make the mistake of telling people about it. Don't tell people about it. Just keep it to yourself, because that's how Hollywood is. It's very, very malleable. Like, it's not that, and again, it's not through anybody's ill intent. Everybody just wants to make cool stuff. It's just, there's so many things outside of your control. For example, I did concept art for a monster movie. I think it was a Warner Brothers gig. This was years ago. And it ended up getting shelved because one of the actors that they had signed had sprained his ankle, and that completely shut down the entire production. He sprained his ankle, and it cut his healing time cut into filming for this movie, and he had another movie already lined up for the other one. So it's, yeah, fickle is exactly the right word. It's a very fickle industry, but not, again, by anybody's intent. So you got to try not to associate anything negatively or try to, assign malice to anything. It's sometimes it's so far out of anybody's projected control. So you learn to kind of be like, okay, cool, that sounds awesome, can't wait, and you just kind of move on with your life, because there's a high likelihood that it won't go through. This is especially true in my experience if you are new to the industry and you're trying to bring new properties in. So that's even more fickle. So I spent a long time working on IPs and writing scripts and doing all this stuff because I wanted to try and break in that way. And the fact is like, this is the thing that I'm learning now, is there's a reason that people do the whole PA thing. Like, they want to be a director, but they'll be a PA first, because what you're really doing is you're building the relationships with different people on staff. You make yourself invaluable, like you're an important part of the team, and you end up kind of getting your foot in the door that way. Trying to just crash through by making something amazing is almost impossible. And I learned it the hard way. So learn from my mistakes. If you want to go in entertainment, find another route rather than trying to create original content. Or create original content and don't worry about it being made into movies or TV. Don't do that. That's a terrible, terrible mistake. Instead, try to make things that you care about because you care about it. You want to make a comic, make the comic. You want to write a story. But make that the end product. Do not try to make movies the end product or TV the end product, because it's almost impossible to get in when you're a nobody and get a production going. There's so much that goes into it. I thought that I think a big part of me was convinced that if the idea was good enough, that people would rally behind it. And weirdly, my idea was solid and people did rally, but it just wasn't enough and it wasn't the right people for the time. My projects may eventually get made, but that's not really my concern right now. Some friends of mine that I made when I was living in LA, they live in West LA. They're writers, script writers, and they had a script that got picked up and was actually made years ago. Like they had done a lot of the primary filming, as I understand it, years ago, or it was picked up years ago and then put on the shelf. And their movie just came out. That's the Boss Level with Gibson. I haven't watched it yet, but that sort of shit happens all the time, and it's completely outside your control. So you just got to learn to kind of accept that part of it. It sucks, but it's true. I'm kind of just grouping values back here because this is pretty distant. I just need to populate it with the light, and that's it. Let's get a cast shadow down. It's nice to be headhunted. Yeah, I think so. It's a good feeling. Kind of the same thing though. Just be careful when it starts to happen. Don't plant big hopes in things like that. Basically, a really good rule to live by is until you get your first paycheck, don't even consider it a done deal. And even then, like my story with the monster movie I was working on, there's a chance that you'll get paid and still it won't come out. It happens a lot. For every movie that makes it, hundreds, if not thousands, die on a shelf. And tens of thousands are pitched and dreamed. The dreams for the Dream Factory. It's crazy. It's kind of crazy that anything ever gets done, to be honest. Oh, right. It's disappointing to a degree. It's frustrating to a degree. But when it works, it's amazing. So, you know, you just do what you can. And not... This is something that I learned working at Sony. And after I actually put out the big products that I was so proud of working on, was that the glory from that is super short-lived. Don't count on that. So what you need to do is just change your perception of what, you know, the time that you're spending is worth, what it means, because it's not about the final product. It's not about, you know, the glory, because you can't control any of that. It's completely outside your control. So manage your expectations and experience by keeping in mind what you do have control over to satisfy your definition of what a good life is. That's the only way you can do it. All right, so we had a conversation here. Let's see where you go. Josh is just starting his shift at the cafe, so he won't be able to stop in. Let's let him know that it's all right. It's going to be on the VOD. So Josh's question, who sadly cannot join us right at this moment, he's working, was he was wondering about my feelings on concept art versus illustration careers. After all my experiences, do I have an experience of what kind of work I like to do best? Which is a great question. I would say for me, it's a taste thing. I like both, but for super different reasons. Illustration is really, really fun because you get to control your own hours, you get to control your output. When you succeed, you're the one that gets all the glory because you're the only one that worked on it. When you fail, you're the one that is accountable for everything because it's just you. So the pros and cons kind of go hand in hand with both of them. You can look at them either way, whatever it is you're looking for in your career. What else do I like about illustration? Generally, you get to kind of, once you get to a certain level, you get comfortable with telling people no and being able to demand better rates, which really is about just your comfort. It's way less about skill than you think. It's really just kind of being clear with what you expect, what you're going to deliver, and then asking for a reasonable amount of money. The problem with illustration is that you can get taken advantage of pretty easily in it, especially if you don't push, like I said, for what you want. It can be a little punishing in that respect, which does suck. Concept art is great. I love doing that too. I love the community aspect of working in a studio. I mean, obviously that's not the case right now, but working in a studio and having camaraderie, having the trench buddies thing and building those relationships is huge. And I really value that part of it. Things that can be tough working in the studio is that there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen. You got to worry about satisfying a lot of different people. You got to make sure that, you're up to a certain code of quality. That can get tough sometimes. Or, the other thing that can happen, and I've witnessed it and been guilty of it myself, is you get competitive and then you end up putting in way more than is necessary and wasting time. And that can get you in trouble. Steady paycheck though, hard to beat. Constant hours. I'm not a big fan of that myself. Oops, you're on a different layer. So I think it's about finding the rhythm that you enjoy in a working environment. I'm not in an office right now, but being part of a group and kind of being able to be in the trench together right now is a nice break from just being on my own all the time. So I'm enjoying it, but I miss being able to just decide my own hours. Since I've worked, I haven't been able to go shopping. I have errands and adulty stuff that I need to do that I just can't do because I need to be accessible at any time. I mean, even more so than my last gig. The last gig was an art direction job for a video game, and I developed the IP for that video game alongside my teammates there. But also the hours were really soft. As long as I got the hours done, it was no big deal. I didn't need to be accountable to anybody really. Meetings were fairly minimal. So when I say accountable to anybody, I mean accountable in time. I was totally accountable, but in time. So I was able to use my time as I saw fit. I could finish something, or I could take a break from something and then go do adulty stuff. And now, like for instance, I have an appointment for COVID to go to the dermatologist next week. And I have to write like an action item list and explain how I need to take this time off because this is the only time I can go to the dermatologist for the dog. It's a trade-off, there's pros and cons to both. And it's really just about finding the balance that you like. I know some people that could not, I know several people that could not even fathom the idea of being freelancers and having to just have total control for their time and be self-motivated and things like that. And then I know, some people that couldn't even imagine working in a group environment and having to be slow for everybody else or having to explain what they want to do. Is it feasible to focus on illustration and then at some point pivot into concept if you're missing the steadiness? Absolutely. That's what I did. That's precisely what I did. When I left Sony, I ended up doing way more illustration than I was doing concept art, to the point where I was like, holy shit, I'm just an illustrator now. And then I've pivoted back and then pivoted again, and now I'm doing art direction for a medium I'd never worked in before. the point is that you are never locked in to anything. This is true of your work and it's true of life. There is absolutely no one that's telling you what you can or cannot do. That's all in your head. If you want to switch to being a jazz musician after spending 15 years in concept art or illustration, fucking do it. Just do it. You don't need permission. Getting the seeking permission thing is probably one of the most common things. I'm totally guilty of it. I've totally done it. That's how I was with my script writing and things like that, is I was just looking for somebody to say, yeah, you can do this. And part of me coming back and being in the States, I was like, you know, I'm not going to do that anymore. I had a really great talk with an old friend of mine that I used to go to college with, and he's now a heavy-duty producer. I think I've actually kind of told this story once before. And he said that, you know, my stories were cool, but what it really feels like is I keep doing all of the prep work to get somebody to say, yeah, go ahead and go for it. And he said instead, just make something, just go do the thing. And it's true. Just go do the thing. So I did it with the Twitch. I just went and decided to do it, even though I didn't have any of the knowledge necessary. And ultimately, the Twitch is what got me this job I have right now. So being on here and talking, communicating, doing the crits and things like that, they saw that. And then on top of the fact that, you know, my work background, illustration, painting, those skills backed it up. But it was actually communication and being here on Twitch and sharing that stuff that really got them to pay attention. I could not have possibly foreseen that. Yeah, Twitch definitely paid off in that respect, 100%. And yeah, not in the way at all that I thought. So that I don't lament it, and I still love doing it. So I think it's pretty great. And think Twitch would have made a difference. Yeah, that's kind of what I've been talking about with some of the other like lessons and our discussions arena, is finding other venues to be outlets for creativity or to build community. You have no idea how those things may pay off. So, and I think a lot of students kind of get into the mindset that if they're not painting 24/7, they're never going to get the jobs. They're never going to get anything. They need to constantly be hustling. And I don't think that's true. I think there's just as much to be gained from doing the things that you love and kind of exploring different things and learning different things and having hobbies that will aid you in ways you could never imagine. Like one of the big things that ended up getting me the Sony gig, or really contributed to my getting the Sony gig beyond painting, was that I'm a huge mythology buff, and I knew a great deal of Greek mythology well before I even started there. I'd taken Greek mythology numerous times in college, and I was hooked. I love it. I love mythology. I love stories. I love storytelling, and that skill set ended up being invaluable when I was working at Sony. Very inspiring. Thanks, Kirby. Welcome. Glad you could join us. You like the art, but you think the communication skills are mostly why you're here. Yeah, actually, Gray Voices, I'd been thinking about this recently, and basically, I don't think that my skill really is painting. It's not. I'd say what I'm particularly good at, if I were to give myself kind of like a report card, is not painting. It isn't even storytelling. It is, I'm very analytical and observant. And so when I'm presented with something like having to learn how to paint, I would say that I'm pretty good at figuring out the how and the why. And then my secondary skill that supports that is I can then extrapolate that and condense it and give it to somebody else in clear language. And I think that's really what I do. So ultimately, I mean, even more than an artist, I'm probably more of a teacher and storyteller, which is cool. And once I realized that, I was like, oh, okay. That changes my expectations of myself. Like the fact that, compared to a lot of artists, I'm not that great. And that's okay because I serve a different role. I have different skills and, I got no problem with that. In the same boat, you want to start streaming on Twitch, but you're nervous buying a PC. Well, get the PC for other reasons. I mean, do the Twitch as the side thing, or try doing Twitch with the PC that you have now and see if you can get it to work. There's no reason you can't test it. Just do it. Download that video of, what's his name? Shaya saying, just do it, and just watch that a few times and just do it. Just start streaming. There's nothing stopping you. It's awkward at first. I can tell you, like, having done full shows for like 2 people, that, you kind of get used to it and you're just hanging out, and what I'm doing is I'm hitting a lot of birds with a single stone. So what Twitch does is it's a bit of community. It's also a chance for me to paint stuff that's not an assignment. It's not for anybody. It's just for me to fill my portfolio with silly shit that I like to paint. I would do this and have done this on my own for years. I've always, when I had free time, painted silly shit, especially like when I had kind of every now and then I would get this wild hair where I was like, I want to paint this really weird thing. And so I would go and paint that thing, and then I would put it up and it would give me some laughs, and that was great. Well, what's cool about this is it forces me to do that because now I have a schedule where I meet with a community. So I'm getting a whole bunch of things for the one thing. So just committing to it and just doing it will be, even if you're not getting the viewership that you intend, will be useful. And then also, like I said, with the current job, you never know what fruit it may bear. So just do the thing, right? If you don't have a big audience, getting in front of the spotlight like this is kind of fun. Like you're painting for someone, you do things differently. Yeah, that's another thing, is if you have a huge audience, it does kind of it puts the pressure on a little bit. So it's this like little stepping stone thing where, like, when it's smaller, you can kind of test things out and be a little weird and awkward and learn to accept the process of being weird and awkward and breaking the ice and just kind of hanging out, and it gets easier and easier. I mean, I have a story for that, but let me catch up on the comments here. Proteus, welcome. You know me since I was, you were at Santa Monica also, Proteus? Teaching, hope you don't offend saying this, you're not my favorite painter. That's fine, I don't mind. It can't be everybody's favorite. So yeah, the story in relation to Twitch. So I have actually told this story on Twitch very early in the process, but when I was a kid growing up, I continue to have severe social anxiety, but it's something that I've learned to manage without, I don't take any medication for it. But when I was a kid, I was at times a selective mute. Like when I was in social groups, I wouldn't even talk. It was very weird. I got in loads of fights because I did not know how to deal socially at all. And then as I got older, I was very fortunate. I got to meet a group of people that kind of let me be really weird. And I would say borderline, at least on the spectrum somewhere. And there was no real judgment for it. And I sort of came out of my shell. And then from that point, I just started challenging myself to do different things that would force me to deal with my social anxiety. So one of the first things I did is after college and getting into work was teaching. In my very first job teaching, I had a very small class. It was terrifying. I nearly shit myself. I was so nervous. And then over time, I would just inoculate myself by making the groups larger and larger and trying to force myself to deal with situations that were out of my control. Because that's what a lot of social anxiety would come from. It would be like these elements are beyond my control, and then like panicking and being so nervous about panicking, and then being panicky about being panicky. It was horrible. It's just this feedback loop that's just terrible. But yeah, I just tried to inoculate myself to that over time. And I've used this as well for that purpose. I think this is going to all go into shadow here because this whole plane can't be light. So I'm going to let it just kind of be a... yeah, sort of a little recess or a little cave shape in there. That's all right. Works for me. Oh, you're working with Ubisoft and Square Enix. Oh, nice. Awesome. Okay. I think that background stuff is working for me. This little band right here needs to be sussed out a little more. I think this should all be light. Donkers, what situation are you stuck in? Dreading what's to come? In regard to what? Oh, I see. Yeah, control is an illusion, my friend. It's so hard to get your brain to realize it too. Believe me, I know. Grab a different brush. It's a little bit easier. With that one, you have to press down really hard. And that's actually something I've never really talked about in any of my classes is sort of just posture and control. If you're using a brush that looks really cool, but you have to be fighting against it all the time just to get the effect that you're after, then it's not a brush that you should be using. It's going to fatigue you too fast. So I love that brush, but I like it for sort of decorative details. But as a brush to kind of just get stuff down quick, it's not very effective because it's a very chunky, heavy brush to use. You have to press really hard to get the effects you want. You can mess with your settings to get that a little bit better. But I think that's also something that I like in that brush is that it's a little bit harder manually to get the effects that I'm after. It gives it this sort of uncontrolled, chunky look, which I'm after. I really like. So, you know, I let it be what it is. Okay. I think I'm gonna go ahead and take out some more contour stuff here. All of this that I'm working on is just so that I can get back to the figure. So I'm trying to control the amount of time that I'm spending back here, while also making sure that I'm doing something that's visually interesting. It's always a balance. Okay, now I can get that brush again if I want. You can see the differences, like when I press really lightly, it barely shows. Like this is me pressing, if I were drawing with that last brush with this, it would be scribbling like crazy. But when I press really hard, you can see these nice, it almost looks like a filbert brush with oils stroke. And so it's worth it for this one, to me, to get that calligraphic feel at the expense of having to press a little bit harder. Thug, how's it going? Welcome. Needs more snipers and loot boxes. No, it doesn't. The world needs less snipers and loot boxes. What level are you now? Did you play last night? Me and Thug have been playing Escape from Tarkov, which is one of the most brutal games I have ever played. It is very hard. And I regularly rage quit. It's so hard. How's the pretty Kova? Kova's doing good. She's healing up real proper. She had really bad skin infection that was nasty the last several months. And so I finally took her to a dermatologist, and she's been on treatment for that. So she's doing pretty good, actually. She's had enough energy to be really bratty lately. And she has been gnawing. She ate a couple of pairs of my roommate's shoes. She's chewed up the couch. She is on a binge of brattiness right now. So she's in the doghouse as well. Little shit. Inglepsy, welcome. You always love catching the streams even though you don't paint. Find a lot of information helpful in your art. Oh, great. I'm so glad. You made it to level 10. The flea market is amazing. Oh, wow. Was it worth the endless struggle to get to the flea market? I don't think I'll ever get to 10. I only play a couple of rounds at a time. It's going to be forever. Plus, I've been having so much fun with VR. You've been playing Hunt Showdown? That looks really hard, too. Tarkov is Tarkov. This is also, by the way, Thug's, the thing that he always tells me is Tarkov is Tarkov when I'm rage quitting. It's a hellscape. Yeah, the Hunt did look tempting. It's just the learning curve stuff I don't like. I'm very much I'm more interested in quick gaming experience. I don't want to be punished. I don't know what it is, but in the last year maybe, I've grown to really love to paint rocks. I used to hate it, and now I'm like, rocks are so fun. Oh, the servers for Showdown. I think they're probably the same as Tarkov. They're probably pretty light because you basically need people that are just into being punished constantly. It's servers just full of masochists. Thug included. I think we've discovered something about him. Storage boxes are a godsend. And pushing the quests helped a lot. The storage boxes that you can pick up at the flea market, that's where they're at. Population is increasing in Hunt. That's good. You don't want to be punished. Yes, I know. I'm certainly. I see the draw. I get it. And what it is, and Thug is right. When it's good, it is really good. But goddamn, the last time I played, when I quit, I was just walking through a field. I was only like my character was maybe 20 meters from where Thug was, and he was like, he had his back to this building and he was looting inside a car, and I was just walking through the field and my head exploded. Somebody shot me. I had didn't see it coming, no indicator, could not. It's impossible. Sometimes it's just impossible, and that's not fun. I don't like not having any feedback for failure like that. That's just too brutal for me. So when it's fun and good and you make it, it's a great feeling, but it's hardly worth it. So when it goes bad, I'm out. You love the crazy shapes I'm selecting with the lasso? Thanks. There is logic to them, like that one out there. Like I knew what I was going to be getting with that little extra shelf. Kova, enough! Enough! Woof. Little shit. You wish Kova a good recovery? Yeah, I wish she'd shut up. Little shit. Such a brat. She's in big trouble right now. Healing after death yourself is worth it. So wait, when you die, when your PMC dies, you're still hurt? I never noticed because I usually quit. And Glepsy, it's your kind of game. What's my technique? Rocks are your arch enemy. The technique is, well, okay, the big thing that comes with rocks is you have to actually look at rocks. Pay attention to the rhythms of rocks, because there is a system there. There's a very distinct system to how different kinds of rocks form and the shapes that they make. There is reason to the madness. So once you map that, it becomes really easy. And then it's just about kind of finding planes. And that's all it is for me now. It's just like creating planes and turning forms. It's super straightforward. So it's really learn the logic of the rock, learn the recipe for the rock, then it'll come much easier. Tarkov is one of those games that's extremely fun to watch, but maybe not so much to play. I don't even like watching it that much either, but that's mostly because the vast majority of people that I've seen playing it are just toxic as fuck, and I'm just not. I don't want to support it. I don't support that shit. I also I used to watch a lot of Warzone players, and even the ones that are generally, you can tell they're nice guys, like when they're in it and they're crushing, they get real nasty too. It's fair. I do also. I just don't want to watch it. You love General Sam's videos. Hate playing the game. You watch him and Operation Drewski. I've watched Drewski. I like the tactical guys, the ones that are operators or have done actual work in that field. It's interesting seeing how they approach it. Thug got me onto a guy, Palazzi or something, and he's pretty good too, and he's got a really funny accent. So those ones, I think Drewski and Palazzi, I can't remember his name right now. I've watched them a few times, and they're pretty chill guys. They have the attitude, but they're not really gross about it. Okay. Sorry, I'm just noodling rocks, because rocks are fun. Let's get back to painting our plants. Realize you love the genre of game, which is kill other players and steal their stuff. That's a pretty good genre. That's a genre I can support. I just like to know why I died. That's not, I think, so that I can get better. Then there's just no opportunity for improvement in that. So at least it doesn't feel like that to me. Like, it doesn't matter your tactical approach with that sort of shit, which I guess, you know, you're going for the realism and stuff, but there is no, the reward is not seen and the punishment is all consuming. So it's frustrating. It's just a really frustrating experience. I like games that let me do stuff that I don't normally do, and, you know, also kind of deliver the power fantasy a little bit. I really like games that do both really well. I actually just watched, there's this channel on YouTube that I really love called The Game Maker's Toolkit. And that guy talks about game design and, you know, the different methodologies. He examines different games and things like that. And one of the things that he was talking about was difficulty in games and the different kinds of players you have. And I'm definitely kind of a middle of the road guy. I like games that reward getting into the system and learning how to do what you want with finesse. I love that stuff. But at the same time, I like a game that has a path that lets you get there at your own rate, at your own speed, so that you can improve over time and see and feel improvement. Games that have a learning curve that are like this, like Tarkov, it's really frustrating. It's not fun. And then the punishment, and this is something he talks about. So I was like, oh yeah, totally. Yeah, man. The punishment, the reward versus punishment is so extreme that a lot of players like me end up just walking away from that experience because it's not worth it to get through the curve of just learning how to do what it is you intend to do in the game. It's just too frustrating. And that's where I'm at with Tarkov currently. And, you know, it's fine. There's different games for different kinds of people. I'm just not the kind of player like Thug is where that is satisfying or enjoyable. Hunt has spectate and kind of kill cams. Yeah. That's like with Call of Duty, having kill cams and seeing where you went wrong, that sort of thing, I think is very valuable in a punishing game so that you can learn. Like, oh, this is what I did wrong. I stepped into that door without looking this way. You don't get that at all with Tarkov. You found a great Tarkov stream called Toast Rack TV. He's mid-50s Australian that plays Tarkov whilst having a martini. Nice. It's not possible to be happy. Cannot imagine being tipsy while playing a game. Yeah, like Call of Duty, I can play drinking, but not great. Tarkov, I can't even imagine moving. I would immediately die. It's crazy to think that Warzone is forgiving compared to Tarkov. Tarkov is so brutal. And it does have, you know, a slight kind of play-to-win angle, which I don't approve of. Or pay-to-win, rather. Not play-to-win. Warframe might be that game. Yeah, I've actually had some friends that have really been trying to push me to go that route. Because I do kind of like a little bit of the loot grind. My problem with Warframe that I can already see in the videos that I've watched is the same one that I have with Destiny and Gears of War. I don't like bullet sponge games. So that's that trade-off I'm talking about where I like some level of expertise. Like if I'm performing headshots, I want reward for performing headshots. If I'm going out of my way to use some finesse with the game, I want to be rewarded for it. Tarkov this afternoon. Maybe tonight. I don't know about this afternoon. I'm hoping that I can get some shopping in. I need to get down and do my grocery. God damn it. Paint. There you go. I have not been shopping in a while. I need food, a variety of food. Avid, welcome. You are these. Let me make a new layer. I think I can just collapse these now. Food is good. Yeah, I've just been eating so I've been doing keto for almost a year now, and the food is limited. So I have a variety, if you will, of food, but it tends to be kind of the same kind of stuff. And I have food, it's all the same. I need a break. What's funny is when I go shopping, and I'm sure this has always been true of me. When I go shopping, I always eat the fun stuff first. So that happens with my keto stuff as well. I'll end up, I'll always end up with the same staples at the end, and then I get bored. Keto is better if you don't like food. I don't know. One of the things that I like about keto is that a lot of the foods that I love are totally fine on keto. So, bacon, eggs. I'm a breakfast foods junkie. I love breakfast foods. Salad, I love salad. Almost all the stuff. What I miss are potatoes, bread, and noodles. God, I miss making ramen so much. I was just, when I was living in Puerto Vallarta right before coming up here, I was just perfecting my sort of quick, real ramen at home. Making my own sort of rough chashu. It wasn't exactly perfect. Like, it wasn't like you would get if you go to a ramen shop, but it was miles and miles beyond top ramen. Any Maruchan stuff. It was like real ramen. It was good. Just thinking about it's making me salivate. I really miss noodles. They have keto noodles, but they look disgusting. So I don't even want to bother with that shit. Okay. Alright, so this means I need to, if I'm going to go that dark with the cast shadow there, this might be a mistake. So I may have to go back from this. Oops. We'll see. Wait, what are you? Oh, okay. I see what you are now. Alright. I gotta use a different brush. This brush is just such a hassle, man. It's a little better. This one's in between. This brush gives me that kind of similar brushy stroke, but is also it's not super hard to get the effect by pressing down hard. The problem is that it gets homogeneous. This one tends to look digital really fast. And here we can do kind of like, let's cool that off significantly, I think. Yeah. You've healed your digestive illness completely by being really strict with food for 2 years. Nice. That's great, Arena. That's really hard to do. If you buy something nice, it's going in the belly the same day. Yeah. Chocolate goes fast. Actually, I've been really good about chocolate since switching to keto, because chocolate that I do have is almost my only sweets. So now I do, which is weird because in some ways I eat more sweets technically than I did before, because now I basically eat a small cake every day. One of the things that I make all the time is a mug cake, which is a sort of really, really simple baked dish, which doesn't involve any baking. It's kind of amazing. It's so good. It's like it tastes and has the texture of a cake. It's like I make this chocolate mud cake with dark chocolate baking powder, and I regularly have little dark chocolate chips with that. But my mug cake that I make using almond flour has something like 4 or 5 carbs in it for like a cake like this big. It's insane. So that's a really common breakfast or a really common dessert for me, is have that with coffee. So I eat way more chocolate now than I used to. Weirdly. You wouldn't think. Goes off very quickly, to be fair. Yeah. Chalks are off menu. Oh, that's too bad. But I'm sure you have something that's delicious that you work with. Demesh, thank you again for that. Thank you for subbing again. That's awesome. Good to see you. Welcome. Sakuga, thank you so much. Glad you like it. Yeah, I'm having fun here, painting some monster action. You make a lot of treats. That's great. Sakuga Sensei, you would like to rename a layer. What layer would you like to name Poo? I shall do that. Microwave brownies. Yeah, that's basically what I'm making, except it's definitely more cakey. I love dense brownies. So if I'm gonna make brownies, they have to be like the really almost stiff surface ones. I don't like cakey brownies. They need to be chewable. Ah. You know what? That purple's not working for me. It's too saturated. So this also means, by virtue of the shadows that I'm establishing here in the midground, I need to make my shadows in the foreground significantly darker. And make sure that they track. Ambient occlusion. Maybe not there. Excuse, please. I'm still gonna have to fix this foot. I still don't like the arrangement of the foot, but we're not concerned with it just yet. Just reminding myself. Okay, I'm gonna let the sky fill come in and do its work a little bit. I will just pick a layer to name Poo. We'll just call it this one. Oops. Fudgy brownies are best brownies? Yeah. My Canadian friends will know there's some really good bars that they make out in the West Coast. I think in Vancouver Island, called Nanaimo bars. Oh, they're so good. But even better than those, there's a New York version of it's very similar to the Nanaimo bars, which it's just amazing. It's like custard with fudge on top, and then like a nice not a graham cracker crust, but like sort of a pastry underneath, and it's like this layered bar. Oh my God. I should not have started this Twitch hungry. That was a mistake. I don't know how long we'll go. I'm going to run out of energy. I need my chocolate cake, guys. Chocolate cake. Ooh, that's a Cosby joke. We got to be careful with that one. Not that any of you younglings have seen that bit. All right. You just had a bagel with a ton of cream cheese? Nice. I miss breads too, but not as much as potatoes and noodles. Okay. Might be getting a little bit busy here in the foreground, so what I'm going to do is try to, let's see, you are there. Okay, I'm going to just on this layer paint in a unifying bit of value. This can happen. This is what's called being spotty or muddy. Muddy less so. I think this is more of a spotty situation where you just have values that break the value key a little too much. You want to have value variation in order to imply, you know, dirt and dust and junk on the ground, little rocks and whatever. But if the value variation is too strong, it creates a visual noise that will draw the eye rather than just let the eye pass over it. So you need to populate areas with visual noise to make them look lived in, but if you let the visual noise be too contrasty, it ends up being the focus of your painting. I get into this pretty in depth with my value key episode on Gumroad. Yeah. You don't have any chocolate in the house? Oh no! We made you hungry? You went and made yourself a tortilla with mushrooms and cheese? Nice. Oh, you guys are monsters. You're just torturing me now. You feel the heads need to be wetter, maybe even dripping with thick goo? That may happen. We will get there eventually. But we know my method. I work back to front, so notes appreciated, but you're far too ahead. Make it drip with molten chocolate. We could easily turn this into a chocolate monster. That would be pretty funny. All right. What are you? I don't think there's anything on this layer. Nope. So we'll put this layer above our other plants. Let's go ahead and unify our plants now. You know what? I'm going to merge all of these plants. This way I can just paint into them. Let's do a multiply. A nice light. You know what? Let's do darken actually. These can be a bit scribbly and less worked out because when we finally do get to the figure, the character, the creature, whatever. Oops. Wait. Oh. What are you? Oh, you're my my proto copy. All right, we'll put you up in the top in case we need more of you, but you're out of my way now. Let's go ahead and merge this down too. There. Cute and juicy. Okay, let's do another one. Let's maybe choose screen for that. Just trying to poop these out pretty quick. Don't know why that's not working. Oh, set the lighten. That's not what I wanted. I wanted screen. Do they grow in the snowy landscape? This thing? I don't know. It could be snow. I think it's probably more of like dust, like a dusty, dry place. I think probably the cools that I've included make it look a little bit more snowy, but maybe it could be really cold and dusty and dry. But maybe we should add some snow. Maybe we turn this into snow. That might be the way to go. We'll see. Once I get started on the figure, which I think will be any minute now, we will kind of start mapping out some other decisions for the background. The Venn diagram for cute and juicy is often overlapped in this channel. Yeah, and horrifying. It's sugar because he's a chocolate monster. There is something kind of, yeah, like candy-ish about the colors and the shapes and materials I've chosen here. That would be funny to do a squishy chocolate monster. All right. My shoulder's a little sore. Let's leave the background for a little bit. Let's get back to our figure. Just for some gigs, some giggles. I'm going to mush all this down into one. And what this allows me to do is manipulate it. Let's see, we can do a transform. Could do a puppet transform, that might be fun. So map for the head, the legs, the body. Do generally, if you're going to bother with this, you got to be kind of gentle. It can be really easy to quickly get it looking all crazy. Puppet warp can be really great for reposing a character. It's another good reason to consider doing your characters on a different layer, like it's completely its own thing, because then you can do things like that. And I think that feels a little bit more natural. And we didn't mess with anything. We didn't have to do any painting. It's pretty straight. Okay. All right, little man. What do you want to do? What do you want to be when you grow up? What keys do I press in this warp? Oh, good question. Okay, so remember that with Photoshop, literally, your only modifiers will be Control, Alt, and Shift, and some variation thereof. So when you're working with Puppet Warp, Edit, Puppet Warp, you can see that my icon is that little push pin with a plus sign, right? Push pin with a plus sign is going to put an anchor point. Boom, now we got an anchor point. And now we got an anchor point. So to remove it, you would hold, oops, undo. To remove it, you would hold, which is it? There it is. You hold down Alt, I think it is, and then you see the scissors come up over it. Hold down Alt while it's over, and you can remove it, right? That's to add. If you hold down Alt outside of it, this is something I actually just learned, maybe like a couple of months ago. You can rotate everything around that single anchor, which can be really useful. Let's say, let's undo that. Let's remove it. When you remove it, all the transformations to the polygon get lost. But let's say we put an anchor there, and we put an anchor here and here. If you're messing with Puppet Warp, you want to make sure that you have anchors. If you want everything else to stay the same, you want to put anchors in that are going to plant it. It'll still move it a little bit, but it'll move it less. So then we can grab this one. You need to select it by just going over it, and you'll see the push pin without the plus sign. That means that that's the selected one. You'll see a little button in it, little tick. Now I'm holding down Alt, and then I can rotate just that part. The only reason it's just rotating just that part right now, though, is because I have anchors elsewhere, and so it's fighting the physics against those anchors. So that's Puppet Warp in a nutshell. Try anytime you're playing with a new tool, no matter how fun and alien it might be in Photoshop, try playing with Alt, Control, and Shift, because they will almost always modify whatever that thing does in some small way. Kova, enough! Enough! Such a four-legged asshole. Why? Why? Why are you like this, dog? I'm often curious about parents, how often they quietly whisper to themselves, this little asshole. They'll have to fill me in on that one, Irina, at some point. I imagine it's a lot. What a little asshole this kid is. Piece of shit. Getting a little harsher with our cast shadows and form shadows. Just to get it up to speed with the rest of the environment now, because I changed the cast shadows for these little succulents in the foreground. I think this is probably all going to be in shadow, really. Maybe just a little tiny part here. One of the best ways, I mean, so that you can learn to map out cast shadows by actually learning it in perspective study. There are perspective formulas that teach you how to do cast shadows and map out where they belong. But one of the best ways to do it with, you know, outside of perspective is to observe. Spend a lot of time playing with objects and light, you know, get matte objects in lit space, and then check and see how your cast shadows behave, like when they become sharp, when they're soft, why they're soft. Thinking about that and observing how your cast shadows go from one object over another object and create curves and things like that. It's observation. But it's worth spending the time, because a cast shadow will give you two things. Form shadow gives you the softness and the form of an object, but the cast shadow gives you the contour of the object as it appears to the light source, so that we can see stuff that we can never see of the object itself. For instance, if we had a cast shadow here that was like a big rectangle and it cut across the shot, we would know that there was a building outside of camera that is blocking the light. It gives you tons of information, a cast shadow does. It can give you information about the other light. You can fill a cast shadow with fill light and skylight. I mean, it's well worth mastering. Spend some time studying cast shadows. It's going to be a game changer for your paintings. Okay, I know I want to cut that. I think I want to cut this little lumpy body a little bit. Yeah, it feels better. How are we on time? Hour and a half. Say I got about 2 hours today, so let's put in another half hour. I will try to do at least one other show per week. I don't think I can do the full 3 anymore, but maybe one more, and it might be an early morning show instead of a late night show. I don't know. We'll see. So it might shift Irina, where I do a morning show during the week, and then the weekend becomes the night show. Because I'm still waking up for my Romanian job hours pretty regularly. I wake up at like 3 or 4, crawl back into bed. I'm almost always at this point up at least once before, I'd say 7 a.m. Kova got on a schedule now, so she gets up early too. Yeah, I think unifying. What I'm going to try here to do with these, with the sort of Hydra bubble head, is unify the values overall, and then within those unified values, start picking out my lights and darks, and that's going to make it feel less spotty. That's already, I think, an improvement. Yeah. You can have a little bit of spot, but not much. You gotta pick and choose those battles. When your son used to be impossible at times, your husband and you would gesture code. Nice. As long as you can catch it once a week, great, great, great. We will get it sussed. Sorry if I reread comments. I have a habit of doing that. Sorry, King. More coffee. Definitely. I thought I drank a lot of coffee before taking this new job. Holy crap. Somehow I drink even more. So, when you guys get the news that Izzy died because his heart exploded, you know why. All right, we've figured out some rudimentary lighting there. I think we're gonna let these be dark. Gotta scratch the butt. That's key. Do it on camera. Sergio asks, how many streams do I spend for a painting? Is it like one for each session? It totally depends. I'd say my average is 2 to 3 sessions per painting. I've done one painting in one session a couple of times, and I've done a couple of paintings in the past that took longer. Usually they were more involved with more characters or something like that. Or the crash, which ended up being like a 6 or 7 day fiasco, all told. I am here to chip away at paintings, but I'm not really here to be finishing paintings. I'm here to hang out and chat with you guys while I paint. Share some knowledge, hang out. This is, excuse me, damn, I'm so burpy today. This is, you know, I mean, it's also just getting social time in a way on account of, you know, end of the world pandemic stuff. Fortunately, everybody's kind of nerdy and into stories and movies and games like me, so it's a win-win, I think. Okay, we're gonna go in with an opaque and try and figure out some of this stuff. I love this brush because it lets me lay down values pretty heavily with minimal push. But like I've said before, it's very digital looking, I think. One of the major contributors to brushes looking digital is their opacity level. If they are frequently only partially opaque and you can see multiple brushstroke overlap, that's like a dead giveaway for digital. What could I just call you? Nerdy? I did it. And there's nothing you can do about it. I think this is gonna have to be like a Carlos Fuente style kind of planar shift. Just gotta accept that nerd life, yo. Just be the nerd you were always meant to be. Something with texture. I can only digital paint with a digital look for so long, and it starts to annoy me. Very early in development on the gig. No, in a way, but I can't really get into it too much. But uh, I my part in it, because I'm art directing, means that yeah, it's relatively early on. Do I know how long I'll be employed? Um, my contract is for a year, I think. Um, how long does a project take? That's I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that I don't know with with how this works, but the way it appears to me is that your average series takes like a year, at least a year to do. What I find myself thinking about a lot while I'm working on this is like Avatar, like what they must have gone through at Nickelodeon to do that. It's an intense process. That's the word I'm looking for. It's an intense process to work through. Like a lot of what I do is giving notes and kind of guiding different artists so that they're solving the problems for production. But because I'm whoa, I just realized what I just painted. That's a bad idea. So, um, yeah. Anyway, the project, when it comes to directing a variety of artists, you're working on a different level. So it's like you're doing the way I'm approaching it is it's like I'm doing concept art, but like I have other hands doing it. So it's a pretty cool project process. That's the word I'm looking for. Yeah, I just realized that too, Gray Voices, and so now I'm thinking about how I need to fix this. I'm sitting here stuttering like, oh shit, what did I do? Oh god damn it. I love it. Oh art. Why must you do this to me? I did it to myself. I tried to cover it up with talk, but that did not work. I was like so busy, like, oh. Can I explain again this thing about opaque brush being more traditional looking, please? Don't have opacity or flow and pressure sensitivity. It's at full opaque. No. So what I'm talking about with that is when you have a hard round brush like this, for instance, and you're painting over something, right? These edges that you get of overlap and the opacity itself, so you get this banding, is what gives that really digital look. So to avoid that, this is a perfect example down here. It's not it's not even just that it's hard edge, because you can get hard edge when you're painting with traditional brushes too, like in reality with oil. So you can totally do this. It's the opacity thing. It's the being able to see through it that really is a dead giveaway. So in order for me to take a break from that, Kova, enough. I will switch to a brush that has a bit of texture, even though that's this is a very digital oil looking brush. So I use it to kind of map out my contours, and then I can use something that's much more traditional looking, maybe like this, that gives me, nice chunky effect, nice texture, but is more opaque. You see what I'm talking about now? So, and it's not just the textures and it's not just the edging, it's the opacity thing that can tend to make things look a little bit more digital. So when I'm painting and I'm after a traditional effect, I will do digital as long as is necessary, but at some point I want to go back and do opaques on top over it. I really got to figure out what the hell to do with this, because I like what I did, but at the same time, this is not going to fly. So this is the problem with working on Twitch. If this was just my class, I would just paint it as is, but I'm gonna have to do something to change this up significantly. We can do, oops. We can take the heads outside a little bit more. My brain is just amazing. I am just the world's biggest perv. Normally, a crown that I happily wear, but since we're producing here on Twitch, I can't really. Just have to get rid of these lips a little bit. Oh, lordy, lordy. That was completely unconscious. I love it. I am so amused. Kova! Such an asshole. We played all morning with her with my fishing for Kova toy, which is like it's like a long fishing rod with a string at the end, and then the end of the string is like this bait. And we played for a long time this morning. It just wasn't enough. She just wants to be a brat. Yeah, happy to help, Drawval. And thanks for hanging out. Bring the idea of making it out of chocolate and jelly beans again. Yeah, there's a possibility. Why did I choose that word specifically? Because I accidentally painted some things. I made some mistakes. The many-assed-saurus. You never heard the dog bark on stream before? Oh my god, she barks on every stream. It's really annoying. And she does it when I have work meetings too. It's like she knows that I'm talking to people and she wants to like get attention. So she decides to be a little asshole. Get real loud. And she's one of those dogs that talks back. So like if you tell her no, she'll bark again immediately just to test you. She's such a dick. She's cute, but just a monster asshole. I don't know how an animal can be dumb and smart at the same time. It just doesn't make sense to me. Yeah, okay, I think this kind of solves our little issue. A touch. It's very 18 plus, that's right. Oh, I'm sure somebody will find some treasure in the vast majority of filthy paintings I do. But this one was not intentionally filthy, for once. And it still ended up that way. Oh, loudy, loudy. You like her bark? It's not loud, just cute. Oh, it gets loud. That's the thing. Is so we play this. I just call it boof, the boof game, and she's that's what she's starting, and she goes woof, 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 and it'll be like every second on the second. It's crazy. She keeps perfect time. Woof, woof, and if I don't stop her before she gets started, this is her OCD side. She will start barking so loud that you can feel it in your guts, like your guts expand when she barks. It's so loud. So that's why I shout at her right away so that she doesn't get started, because once she goes, oh my god, it's loud. I remember she would sometimes get into a barking fit when we were on the boat, and the sonic impact of it was enough that the hull of the boat would vibrate when she'd bark. It was crazy loud. When you scold your dog for barking, she woofs. Yeah, Kova's like that. She always has to have the last word. Yeah, I think we're escaping terminal velocity into Sexy Town. Maybe she's a genius that disguises herself. It's highly unlikely. Either that or she's extremely committed to the act. Yeah, I think when I was first sort of imagining this thing, it was sort of like a fat cell hydra was what I had in my head. It's just like how the cells are being held in place that needed a little bit of finessing. Ahem. Too bright for this area. You know me too well, Irina. Too well. Oh my lord. Okay. We will just sweep this one under the rug and pretend this never happened, right, gang? Now we will call it the proctology monster. Gotta love it. Yeah, we do know what happened. I got distracted talking. The subconscious came out. Four hours into the painting, he notices after picking the exact part. Yes, that's exactly what happened. Like, I drew it. It's obvious what I drew. Like, I can't believe I missed it. Definitely my subconscious getting the better of me there. Okay. I think we have mostly dodged that bullet. remember I was mostly thinking of that toad parasite, which Irina can never forget. The damage is done. It was about feeling, just like all art. It was about feeling. I'm sorry, officer. I was in an artistic fugue state. Okay, yeah, bullet dodged, we're good. Whew. All right, back to what I was trying to do. It wasn't my brain that betrayed me. It's true. Are we on time? 2 hours. Okay. Well, at least we got started on the critter. We had a major setback that we will never speak of again. Which I know I'm going to hear a lot about in the future. But that's all right. We got our footing. We got a new direction. It's so funny. So next time when we start up, we'll just start right into the creature. We'll probably be able to finish in the next session because it's just going to be about like getting in some texturing and then doing, you know, my favorite stuff. That last bit of material juiciness, some nice speculars, a little bit of color variation. Let's do a little color variation now. You never dare to Google. I've lost your trust, Irina. This is terrible. I'm so sorry to hear that. We can get a little bit of sky color in. These are notes for future Izzy. See what we did. Oh, we can't quite see everything. Oh, big changes. This is an extremely unsettling image despite its cute pastel colors. Awesome. All right, gang. Let's see. Should we do a raid? See who's on. Anybody got any recommendations for a raid today? See if anybody I'm following is on. Iglesias Miguel is on again. We can give him another bump. I think we hung out with him last time, though. Any takers? You guys following any artists that are on right now? I'm not great at it yet. I'm still struggling. I mess up the raid still about half the time, but I know that I'm supposed to do it, so that's good. That's something. No worries, Avid. Thanks for hanging out. Make sure we saved my weird, terrible monster. Let's go ahead and hit up Iglesias and just give him a little more bump. He's been painting for 2 hours. He's painting a nice figure, it looks like. Doing a study. Looks like soldier maybe. Pretty cool. All right, so let's do a jump over there. Stick with me for a minute if you're interested in watching more painting today. I will, if you're not following on the Discord, get on the Discord, because that's going to be where I plan and map out the schedule for upcoming shows. And when I do a rando, I'll just drop in on there so that you can stay up to date with the latest, because my schedule is totally wonk now. But yeah, thank you guys so much for sticking with me through all this stuff. I really appreciate it. Let's do a raid. We're going to do Iglesias. Let's start our raid. All right, gang. Thank you so much for hanging out today. We'll finish this up next time. And until next time, paint smart, paint sexy.